Hello students, and welcome to Unit 4. In this unit we're going to talk about how to study and how to prepare for tests. In a math class, it's a little bit different than in some other courses. It's not just about memorizing, it's really about understanding the concepts, and the way that you study can help you do better in the class overall. So I had you watch some videos about what you can do to prepare, study, review for other math or other courses. And I thought it would be really good to talk about what's known as the study cycle. Now you may have seen this before, but maybe not. So when you start thinking about a new idea, we start at the very top with what's known as the preview section. It's recommended that before you go to class, you should skim over the new material. This makes you more familiar with it. Take note of the big ideas. This isn't a time-consuming piece, maybe 15 minutes or so, but it will help you so that it doesn't seem like everything is brand new. The next step is to actually go to class. If you're in a Zoom online class, it would be very similar to a face-to-face class. You would log into the Zoom session and be there physically present. If you do attend using Zoom, you really have to push yourself to not be distracted with other websites or anything else while you're in class. We know it's harder to take class online, and it's really hard to do it if you have kids at home, if other people are trying to use the computer, if there's things in the background, if your dog's barking. So do your best to kind of minimize those distractions. Be sure you take notes. And when you take notes, make sure you're kind of copying down what is important about this problem. Put little questions to yourself if you do have any. And whenever your teacher allows it, ask questions if you're not clear on something. Remember, this is the time for you to ask questions. This is the learning process. And almost all teachers that I know do enjoy having students ask questions. Now, if you're taking an online class that doesn't have a Zoom component, you're going to have to really be attentive to what's known as maybe a learning portion as well as a practice portion. The learning portion would be similar to what you're doing in class. Your teacher might have videos, maybe PowerPoint slides, but that's what you'd want to do to kind of replace that attend portion. Now, after you've gone through the attendance portion, it's time to review. Go back to your notes. Read over them. Do they make sense? Fill in any gaps that you have. If it doesn't make sense and you can't remember how to fix it, make sure that you think of that the next day when you are taking new notes. What do you need to put down that would make it better for you? Develop additional questions as well. You could bring these to the Math Learning Center or to your teacher during their office hours. Now that you're done reviewing your notes from the day, it's time to actually go through and study. This would be time to practice. As you're doing the practice problems or the homework, make sure that you keep that in mind. What were the ideas that the teacher covered? Am I doing this correctly? Do I understand what I'm doing? And then as you get ready for the test, you want to ask yourself, can I teach this material to someone else? Are my study methods being effective? It's good to look back and say what worked and what didn't work for you. If you did watch that longer video from the classroom, that teacher had put together a video on notes for studying and had 12 different pieces that he said would help you to study smart and to study less. Making sure that you do take study breaks is really important. I've seen students again trying to cram too much, and honestly, your brain can't handle it. Make sure that you get good sleep. Make sure that as you're going back over your notes, you are being active. And as you study from the books, try different techniques. The SQ3R technique is you survey, then you question, followed by the read, recite, and review. I'd recommend a study group. And if you can make a study group, you can come to the Math Learning Center. We can even give you a breakout room where you could study together, even though you're separated by distance in this pandemic. Do we still have to test? I get this question from my students all the time. And remember that a test is just saying, do I really have it? Do I have it down? So it's not a negative thing usually to give a test. But let's talk about some strategies. So before you take the test, here are some strategies. Again, we've talked already about avoiding cramming, studying with classmates. It's really good to come to that Math Learning Center. Be proactive to make sure that you're not having to rush and blitz right before the test. And here's a few other ones. Ask the instructor about the test. What's the format of the test? Making sure that you know which topics are going to be on the test so it helps you to focus your study. Do your best to sleep well and eat well prior to the exam, and practice some deep breathing. Take a few deep breaths before you start to help get your mind in the right place. Now, during the test, be sure, if your teacher allows you to be writing things down, write down the key information. Skim through the test first and kind of determine which questions are worth the most. Usually this is helpful because it tells you where you should focus your energy. Make sure you read all the instructions, and if your teacher is part of a Zoom class, they may tell you some instructions, so be sure you listen to all the instructions first. Do your best to pace yourself. It's not bad, since you're probably going to be testing near a computer, to have a little timer up that just lets you know, okay, I've spent 10 minutes on this question, it's time to move on to something else. Whenever possible, review your test. It helps prevent kind of silly mistakes, as people say them. And this is the piece at the end that I notice a lot of students don't do, but I wish they would. After you get your test back, now you have some feedback from the instructor. Questions are marked right, questions are marked wrong. Take some time to reflect. Check for your correct and incorrect responses. Make sure you understand the ideas. And do you now know how to solve the problems that you got wrong? Math tends to build on itself. So if you're working through the next section, if you don't understand the present one, it might be really important to make sure you still can do it. Look back at your study methods. Improve your test preparation strategies. And, if you can, make an appointment with your professor. Sometimes it's good to get feedback from them directly, and most of them are very willing to meet up with you. And don't forget that you can always bring your exam to the STEM Center or the Math Center at the end. We can review and take a look at what you might need to do to be successful next time. Alright, so as we get to the end of this section, your bonus video topic is about grit, the power of passion and perseverance, and talks about a PhD candidate who decided to become a 7th grade math teacher and some of the things that she experienced and what she noticed and was able to document, and how that really changed the way she looked at success. So I'd like you to think about what you can do to be successful. Maybe even think about the format of the courses. Think about how you approach different things like word problems. And maybe even consider, why is reading a word problem more than once so important? Alright. Don't forget, if you have any questions, please reach out to either Jen or myself. We're here to help and make this as successful as possible. Well, that should wrap it up for this section. Hopefully this works out really well for you and you have a chance to reflect and learn and grow along the way. Alright, off you go.